welcome back. I'm Keith Barry.
I'm Kelly Funkhauser.
And I'm Steve Ellick.
And we are here to talk about a small, relatively inexpensive car today, which I love. I love getting to talk about. Anyone can make a supercar, but it takes a sort of a genius to work within constraints and do it well. And that car is one we recently bought. It's the redesigned 2025 Nissan Kicks. We got the SV all-wheel drive version, which is sort of the most popular. We always buy the most popular version of the vehicle, whether it's how much it costs. It comes with a 141 horsepower, 2-liter 4-cylinder engine, a CVT, all-wheel drive. The starting MSRP was $25,330, which is not that much for a car these days. It's about $20,000 less than the average transaction price for a new car these days. It came with just a couple of options, splash guards and floor mats. They're not the Yosemite Sam mud flaps, unfortunately. I lobbied for those, but Gabe said no. The destination fee is $1,390. The total cost is just a hair over $27,000. $27,000 for a new car, and that's not bad. And you get a lot, right? And especially when it comes to like some safety stuff, right?
Right, yeah. For a small SUV, those that are looking for this type of a car, under $30,000, and you're going to get a lot of the safety features. So in Nissan, the Nissan Kicks has standard blind spot warning. This one also has lane departure warning. It doesn't come with lane keeping or lane centering, but you do get adaptive cruise control as well. So you get a handful of the safety and convenience features for, again, under $30,000.
Yeah, and it has ones that other cars don't have at their base model. And we really like a car that gives you all those features regardless of how much you pay. You don't have to get extra options, right?
Exactly. When you're talking about some of the comps on the market, right? So you might think of the Subaru Crosstrek or even the Toyota Corolla Cross. Both of those actually don't have standard blind spot warning, whereas the Nissan Kicks does. So if you're looking for that feature specifically, safe bet is to go with the Kicks. And
the interior, this to me, when I got in, it kind of felt like, oh, okay, I know where everything is. I've never driven it before, but it feels like it, right?
And styling-wise, it's pretty nice. I mean, I looked in the digital logbook, and multiple people said, like, yeah, it looks pretty good. Like, for this class, it's not a bad-looking car.
There's a lot of attractive cars in this category. It seems like there's some style that it's the H&M, Zara, fast fashion coming to cars. To me, though, the problem though is when you actually look at this car, and I don't get this from some of the others. It feels like someone flipped a house really cheaply. Like they took a house and they kept the furnace, they kept the roof, but they ripped out the wall-to-wall carpet. They put down gray LVP and they spray painted the cabinets white, and they said total renovation. Because this car, it doesn't feel. There are all these little hints of. It just kind of feels like a gussied up Sentra.
Like you want it to look nice, and it like kind of does on the inside. It's like, oh, pretty nice, but like I understand. I love like the gray laminate flooring. Thing that you're saying. It's like, yeah, it looks pretty good when you step on it, but I don't know if you want that in your house. It's like you say it's the kind of a bad flip. It's kind of like a flip from a guy who didn't get permits.
Yeah, it has it looks like a big wide screen, but when you look, it's just like it's an 8-segment display.
The glass is bigger, but the actual display behind it is a little smaller.
I mean, literally talking Maxima, like, Datsun level digital dashboards coming in here.
Are back.
Yeah, exactly, which is cool, but again, when you're trying to, that sort of honesty there. As far as driving's concerned, I mean, I think that's where the lack of investment shows, to me at least. It's loud, it's a little slow, it's a little sluggish. I mean, it's $27,000, but we've driven, the Kia K4. I know it's a sedan, but that car is actually kind of fun to drive.
I mean, the Chevy Trax.
Yeah.
Chevy Trax is even cheaper than this. It was $3,000 cheaper.
No all-wheel drive,
no
but...
all-wheel drive. But, like, it was... When you get in that car and like your expectation for the class is always the same. You're not like expecting the nicest car, but like the Chevy Trax you get into, and I'm like, I kind of like this car, especially when I keep in mind that it's $24,000. I didn't get as much of that feeling with the Kicks.
It's lacking a little kick, right?
Yes.
It's lacking a little kick. So it doesn't have the get up and go and the horsepower and acceleration throughout that we like. The CVT has simulated shifts, which kind of help with some of the, feeling as you're driving, but it's still not great by any means.
Instead of just going, it goes.
Exactly. There are more steps in that. Yeah,
exactly.
In the kick down. Yep.
Yeah, in the kick. Oh, there we go. There we go. Yeah, it's like the Nissan Mild. I think it's fine. For the price, it's totally fine. The problem is that there are just so many other cars in this class that I think are great. I mean, I know you have a couple, and of course it's going to be, you might have to spend a little extra, right?
Right. You might spend just a little bit more, but you're probably going to get a lot more. If you, again, talking about maybe the Subaru Crosstrek, I think is a good competitor to this one. You're going to get some of those extra features like the lane keeping and I think a better performing adaptive cruise control and things like that. And I think the styling of the Crosstrek is, I prefer the styling of that a little more sporty than the kicks. But
so you're a traditionalist.
Maybe. I like the sporty styling. Yeah. So, and that one's also an all-wheel drive. So some things to compare. I think, I don't know if I would pick the kicks thinking about some of the comps out there.
I mean, you're thinking about reliability, it's a new redesign. So it's yet to be determined how it'll score. Nissan is average as a brand. But the Corolla Cross, the Toyota Corolla Cross it is reliable. We have data on that. So we already know that. So it's almost like there's a choice for every feature or aspect of this car that's better in one of the competitors.
That's actually what I wrote in my notes. I said I would pick the styling of the Crosstrek, the reliability of the Corolla Cross, but then the kicks for the blind spot warning.
Yeah, you do get a lot. I mean, I would pick. Honestly, I love in that class. I love the Kona. I think it's a great car. It's a little bigger. Talk about styling. Hyundai actually gave it this real look. It's like the Kona feels like you're buying designer at a discount as opposed to fast fashion.
Right, and that one you're going to get all of the safety features, right? The Kona has standard blind spot warning, has lane departure warning, lane keeping, sometimes even lane centering, depending on the trim you get. So that one you're going to get more features if you go for the Hyundai.
Yeah, and it's quieter. It's that noise and vibration.
Road noise in this kicks. It
really does come through.
It was loud. Yeah.
And the wind noise picks up too when you're on the freeway. Yep.
Yeah.
I mean, all when you put it all together, I don't think the kicks would be if there's a Nissan dealer near you, if the price is right, if you like it. It's not a bad choice.
It's fine.
Yeah.
It's just
I think we need to talk about the price, right? It's a reasonable price for under 30,000. You're going to get, I think, exactly what you expect.
Yeah.
Absolutely.
It's a good car. It's fine in every aspect, and you'll be okay if you buy it. But while I was driving it, I kept questioning why. Why? There's just something better. There's the Corolla Cross is more comfortable and it's more reliable. The Crosstrek, people love the Crosstrek for whatever reason. It's so
why pick that one?
Yeah. Yeah. And it's, it's actually, we talk so much about they're only making luxury cars and all the innovation is happening in that, $60,000 to $80,000 range, all the EVs coming out that are so expensive. That's the other thing. There's no hybrid version of this car.
Yes.
So, the fuel economy that we're seeing, you're going to get, you might have to spend a little more, but, I spent the weekend in the Corolla Cross hybrid driving a ton in that. And to me, the fuel economy, it might not pay for the difference, in the cost of fuel, but also the car is more fun to drive. I mean, it's not fun to drive, but it's more enjoyable to drive, and it just feels, to me, worth the money to get that.
Yes.
Yeah, absolutely.
I agree.
But I could totally see this as we haven't done our list of teen driver cars yet, but I could totally see this as maybe being a good car for a new driver or someone who's downsizing. The kids have left and you want something a little smaller. This is kind of that. This is kind of in that sweet spot.
Yeah, I think that's a really good point, right? And knowing that the average age of a car on the road today is well over 12 years, there might be people that are looking to upgrade into a new car, but they don't have the $60,000, $70,000 budget, right?
Yeah.
So this is a good choice for someone who's looking for standard safety features in a relatively inexpensive car and, some of the modern upgrades and luxuries. So I think for that reason, this would be a good choice.
Yeah.
And look relatively good driving it too.
Right.
Again, I want to say, I think it looks pretty good.
And that all-wheel drive, which you don't get in, the Venue, which I know is a little smaller. You don't get in the Trax. You don't get in the Invista. That's it, right? Yeah. I've forgotten all my Buicks. They're all gone. Yeah, and you don't get that. Even though I think they're better cars, if you are looking for that all-wheel drive, this is going to be that choice. So the only kind of question mark is, and I think it explains why Nissan hasn't spent a ton of money. Like you said, the guy who couldn't afford to pull permits, it kind of, Nissan's in a little bit of trouble right now, it seems. It seems like financially, sort of out of nowhere, they kind of said, well, we're looking to merge, we're looking to, we're having some financial issues. So I think they're in this kind of weird spot where they're hoping this car will sell in volume, and they needed to make them some money, but I don't think that they necessarily have the huge, R&D and the huge amount of money that some other automakers have right now.
Yeah, very good point.
Yeah. So, so that's the Nissan Kicks. If you like it, buy it, I guess. We'll
As we say with everything, I mean, test drive it. Maybe you will like it. It's just...
Right. It might be the right choice for you, especially if you have a tight budget. If you have a little bit extra to spend, maybe test drive some other cars as well. But overall, you're going to get what you are expecting. And
especially if you're going from that 12-year-old car.
Exactly. Yes.
Because it's a whole other world out there. So, go to the Hyundai dealer, go to the Toyota dealer, and just go to the Subaru dealer. No, exactly. Try it out. And if you like the Kicks, well, wait for our final test, which will be up soon at cr.org. You can read our first drive now. And if you sign up for our newsletter, you will be among the first to be alerted. Breaking news when the Nissan Kicks review is up. So make sure to sign up, head over to cr.org, read that, and check it out. There's a ton more information about it. So we're going to head over to questions now, and this is kind of cool. If you go to cr.org/talkingcars and submit a question and we use it on the show, you can get some CR swag sent to you. So I see Steve is modeling some right there from the Auto Test Center. I think that might be from last season's line, so I can't guarantee you what you'll get, but there's some cool stuff you can show your CR love. And our first question is a video question, which you can send in at cr.org/talkingcars, and it comes from Max from Rochester, New York.
Hey, Talking Cars. My question for you is, what are the best and worst car infotainments out there today? I just listened to your Mini Cooper review, and it didn't sound like that was the best one out there. So it really got me thinking, which are the best ones that manufacturers offer, and what are some potential really bad ones that could be deal breakers? Thanks.
Max, I got a question for you. How long did it take you to polish that silver service behind you? That's incredible. Kelly, I think this is a question for you to answer.
Yeah, so you're right. We talk a lot about which infotainment systems are bad, and so the question is which ones are good, right? And it's a somewhat complicated question, and really the answer is it depends. So we take a look at infotainment systems and evaluate a few different things. We look at if the climate system is embedded in the screen, therefore part of the infotainment, the media, of course, and navigation, and then some other just basics. So going through the menu, looking at all the bells and whistles, adjusting settings, etc. So it depends. Part of the answer is really, well, if you use those things, then you're definitely going to want one that is easier to use. If you don't use navigation, for example, then maybe that part isn't so important to you. So one of the more recent vehicles that we tested the infotainment system and really liked it was actually the Mitsubishi Outlander.
Wow.
Huh. And the reason for that is because it's very straightforward and simple. So it has shortcut buttons around the side of the screen so that you can just immediately click between, the media and any of the different aspects that you want to flip through quickly. You don't have to use the touch screen and find a home or a back and go through a bunch of menus. However, it's also lacking a lot of bells and whistles.
Yes.
So simplicity tends to lend itself to less distracting and more usable. So when we're thinking about, all right, what are the vehicles that have more bells and whistles? That's where we start to run into issues. So BMWs and Mercedes tend to have some issues with even just navigating through the menu. So BMW has a lot of little teeny tiny icons that are just in this almost endless list that you have to scroll through. The icons aren't easily recognizable, things like that. And then to touch them, you have to actually have very small fingers, right?
Or you can, for the BMW, use a search bar while you're driving to find the app, which is just like...
Right.
Or sometimes you can use gestures that you
yeah.
don't even realize
Or-
are happening.
or voice control,
and I do
right?
this because that's how you turn up the volume. I feel like
Accidentally,
Arthur Fiedler.
That's how I accidentally turn up the volume.
Yeah, yeah.
And then cause more problems for that. So, generally the fewer features, the better for usability of those systems. But of course, having those features is very important to people. So I would say just generally, if you're looking for an infotainment system and you're using things like navigation in the map, look for one that has a split screen or uses the map kind of as the background. So has, either widgets or overlays that tends to keep multiple things visible on the screen at once. So a split screen. So Hyundai tends to do this pretty well, where you can have these kind of split screen widgets and you don't even have to open kind of like their app, right? Like you don't have to click into it to be able to go forward and back and things like that. So those tend to be the most usable, having everything all at kind of the surface level.
I'm just sort of in love with and I spent a decent amount of time with that Mitsubishi. I drove about 2,000 miles. And again, it's this funny thing where you have these, it's the least expensive cars, the kind of more basic cars. I love the Honda systems.
Yes.
I think Honda went from, I remember a few years ago, they had like 2 screens and no volume knob. And it was like someone told them, maybe it was you, don't do that. Make it easy. And I feel like the newer Hondas are like,
what an epic turnaround.
like breath of fresh air. Yeah.
Yep. There have been some major improvements in that area where everything isn't just deep down in a menu and hidden and you have to figure out where it is and what's it called and everything to navigate. It's all kind of front and center.
Yeah.
Yeah. But the luxury brands, unfortunately, if you're in the market for a luxury car, there's a lot going on.
Yeah.
And it's all in that screen.
My recommendation would be, no matter what vehicle you either have now or are looking for, see if you can customize anything. Usually you can customize a home screen. Sometimes there are even buttons, star buttons or anything like that you can customize as a shortcut to get to some of your frequently used things. And that will really help with the overall usability and interaction with, again, the more frequently used items that you're typically like climate, navigation, media.
That's great advice.
That star button in the Hyundai, that's like the first thing I do is I program it to go to my CarPlay screen.
Exactly.
So I can go back to the, and then the next person who has it probably programs it to do something else.
Exactly.
So great advice. The least worst infotainment systems, unfortunately, I think
I think that's a good way to characterize it.
I really hope a tide is turning there. So Tony from Sharon, Massachusetts asks, does CR have any advice regarding extended warranties and maintenance contracts? Well, I think our first advice is, our advice that we've been saying for years and years is just buy a reliable car and then you won't need a warranty, save your money. And I know up there in Sharon, you're right on the auto mall. You can go down to that, there's a ton of dealerships you can go to. But Steve, you're our reliability expert. What do you say?
Yeah, the best you could do is probably buy a reliable a model from a reliable brand like Toyota or Lexus. They score well in our new car reliability. They score very well in our used car reliability. You can't really go wrong. Of course, always look at the model itself because, Toyota has their issues with the Tundra. But for the most part, that's a good solid buy to get something like that. If you're going to buy something else, then you might want to do a CPO, which is a certified pre-owned. And I ran a analysis on this last year. And so CPO cars had approximately 15% fewer problems than like just traditional used cars without the CPO. And owner satisfaction was higher too by 12%. So CPO is a good way to go. Of course, you have to weigh out whether it's worth it. Maybe don't get it for a reliable Toyota Camry because, you're just going to pay extra and then it's going to be reliable anyway. But if you're looking for a used BMW, CPO may be a good thing to look into because of those higher maintenance costs.
And the CPO tends to add to the existing warranty.
Exactly.
And there are also some used car dealerships that add on a little extra warranty as well. There's some you can purchase.
Yes.
But I know that some of the cars that you might want to really have a warranty on, those are the ones that are excluded. So
they're excluded from that third-party warranty. So yeah, I talked to our chief mechanic, Big John, and his team. And they offered some really good advice about those maintenance plans. and extended warranty. So, they're all made differently. Fidelity is an example of like a pretty good one.
So these are like third-party ones.
Third-party ones,
yeah.
Yes. And in general, Big John said the less reliable car, the more the service plan makes sense. So, and vice versa. So that's really the overall that you want to look at. Mike Crossan then said that there are other maintenance plans. So really, that's just like a calculation. That's just a money equation of what sort of maintenance are you going to do, what oil changes,
the scheduled
stuff, and is it worth buying whatever the dealers offer or the whatever the service is offering it at to cover those costs, or is it going to be better off to just go through and pay for the oil changes during those scheduled maintenance, tire and wheel plans? If you're susceptible to hitting curbs,
if you've got those low profile tires and the 20-inch wheels, and you live in, say, I don't know, Massachusetts, where you have a ton of potholes, and
right,
you might get your money's worth.
Never curbed your wheel, it's not really worth it. Same thing with the key insurance and the paint protection, all those. If you're one of those drivers that tends to lose your keys or ding your car, maybe look into that and evaluate the calculation of if it's worth it or not. But in general, overall, if you're going to go with a CPO, it's better than just a regular used car. And that's.
Yeah. I mean, there are these insurance companies, these car makers, these dealers have very, very smart actuaries figuring out how they're going to make money off of these plans. They're not selling these plans to be a charity. They're going to make money off of these.
Exactly.
So, part of it is the peace of mind. We used to work with a guy who would get an extended warranty on a reliable car, and it was just because of his anxiety. It was, he just didn't want to have to worry about it. And he said, well, I can afford it, so I'm going to pay it. I know it's not the best choice, but I just feel like I'll be covered. Is that the best financial decision? No, but if it helps you sleep at night,
then do it.
Yeah. And if you're buying a Lexus and if you're buying a CPO Lexus, maybe you can skip it.
Yeah.
Awesome. Great. So there's some advice for Tony, some answers to questions from Max, and maybe next time we'll be able to answer your question and send you some swag if you head over to cr.org/talkingcars and send in your question. We love those video questions, even if you don't have an entire Tiffany showroom sitting behind you. So thank you so much. Thanks for joining us. We'll talk cars again soon.